Hello and welcome back. I had not intended for this to be the formula, but it seems that sometimes when I'm exploring an idea in a personal journal, I say it well enough that I feel there's a point there I'd like to ponder further, and I figure it might be fun to share some of those thoughts, those insights, and so what follows is another personal journal. Okay, well, without further ado, let's roll it. I'm back on the subject of like karma and Runanabandha, and like I don't know that I understand it really well. I don't know that I have to. What I get from it is what interests me. There's this concept that what we do generates energy, and it kind of it kind of tips the scale one way or the other, right? And not even call it good or bad, whatever. Just it tips the scale one way or the other, and that creates sort of a balance of our life. When you look at it in the end, like where did that finally balance out? And yeah, what do we do to balance that scale or to tip it in a direction we want? And yeah, I think that that's a useful way of thinking of karma, whether it's correct or not. Give it another name, just make it its own concept if I'm really off the mark here. But yeah, I think that there's something about saying that our action has a larger, let's say, cosmic consequence, and that we we talk about free will, and like free will's the the force the force by which we can tip that scale, right? And the idea of Renana Banda, as best I understand it, is like a memory in our genes. It's in our body. It's like a memory of all this energy we have within ourselves, with the world, with the people we encounter. And the idea, as I best understand it, is that we're bound to people through like the karmic accounts we've had in past lives, and it it basically um, determines who you connect with in this life, and how you form the relationships and why they're colored a certain way. And I also understand it as an energy that we pass between us. So it can be through relations like genetics, so family, hereditary things to do with our ancestry, and it can also be through sexual relationships that we pick up this energy and we transfer it, and it 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 kind of balances our life. And that's affected me because I think about the ways in which I've interacted with people and how they've interacted with people and how they've carried that energy to me, and we've had our own exchange of energy, and that's part of my own total imprint, I guess. And yeah, it really interests me that I just kind of was thinking about how it it's a lot about where we can apply free will, and how we can sort of shape the outcomes in a way that we don't just leave it to fate. I think there's a certain predetermined aspect to life, but I also think that we do get to move within that, and it's almost like choose your own adventure stories. Like back when I was a kid, there were these books where you would pick the go this way, go that way, and it would tell you where in the story to pick up, and you get a different story based on that. And yeah, I think it's a little bit like that. I'm sure there's still something like that, but it's the thing I remember thinking, like, I wonder how much life's that way. That I wish you could go back and pick the other option and see where that story goes, right? We all wonder at times, don't we? Where you could go and change one variable and see what that would have been, right? There's something compelling about that, but the only thing we can really do is to act in the moment, and within that try to choose how we want to move forward into the future. And that's where, yeah, the free will and the karma come in. And I think it's possible to balance some of those accounts in this life. Let's say you only get one. Maybe this is all, you know, a flight of fancy. None of this is real. Nobody knows, right? I look at everybody's ideas about how it works and where we come from and where we're going and what we're supposed to do in between. But, nobody knows really. And so let's say you get one life, and the idea is you want to balance your accounts in this life because you're going to be stuck for infinity in whatever state you leave this life, right? And like, there's an idea. That's a crazy concept. I'm sure it's reflected. There is a little bit of that. It's sort of the idea of if you're worthy to enter heaven at the end of your life, right? This concept. Now, maybe we came from nothing, we go to nothing. It could be. That's not the worst idea, that we were given a chance to collapse this energy and matter into this state of being, that it exists and we get to experience it and be aware of experiencing it. Maybe this is a wildly anomalous hiccup in the fabric of reality out on some far-flung fringe of the cosmos that nobody knows or cares, and there may not be much meaning to it. But we are evolved to seek and live through meaning. We just are. Look at us. We do better when we approach our experience in this corporeal form at some just more meaningful and purposeful level. And so let's pretend that means something and go back to saying that I think it's possible to settle accounts in this life, and that if there is nothing else, there's still a peace in that. There's still a sort of harmonious way about our lives. We're not looking over our shoulders. We're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's such a peace and freedom in that. We talk about how we value these things, and I believe we do, but then to act in a way that we're always kind of like, and I'm not saying I've lived a perfect life by any means. I've had to pay off some karma here. I've been the bad guy, yeah, but by and large, I think that being able to look at that and own that and say, I want to do better. I want to live better. I want to enjoy this more. I want to bring more enjoyment to the people around me. How do I account for that and settle that tab? And I think that viewing a lot of the suffering I go through as sort of a payment plan for settling bad karma. Maybe it's not what's happening, but it gives me comfort and it helps me navigate things that happen to me when it might be more reflexive to throw up one's hands and say, why God, why me? I'm like, yeah, I know, the bill's due, let's pay it, right? And to go towards something more proactively with a sense of meaning and purpose. Again, there's just, it's gonna suck. It's just suck for a cause. This is my new equation where I'm like, okay, it's gonna suck. It could suck for no reason, or it could suck for a cause. And again, we're evolved to feel that if there's a cause, it's of greater value, and our whole system orients around that. We have physiological changes when we assume that mindset, and so I want every advantage in this. This isn't easy. I'm not always having fun. I'm just clearing a rough stretch, and yeah, I hope I'm clearing it. Yeah, we'll see, but it's still worth it when I can think of it as part of a larger process, a bigger work, and you get a lot out of it. I don't feel it's pointless. I think there's a kind of nihilism that says it's pointless, and there's a kind of nihilism that says we don't know. And I'm more in that latter camp, because you have to make choices. You have to choose whether you serve what you believe is good or you're indifferent, because most of the evil comes from indifference and apathy and inaction. What is it? It's something like, for evil to triumph, it just takes good men to do nothing. Oh, come on. Why can't I get quotes right? Anyway, it's Edmund Burke. I can't remember the quote exactly, but yeah, it's something about just not taking action, and then there's some evil. There is some evil. There's some real darkness in this world, but I think most of it is indifference. It's people lining up for the free lunch when we know there's no free lunch, and yeah, in choosing to do good. Where was I? I've lost the train of thought. She wandered too far away. Okay, I got it. I was talking about having to make choices about what we serve, and to tip the scale is an active process. You can leave it to chance that it might tip in your favor, might turn out okay, might be all right for the people around you, but you know, it might just level, it might just go the other way, and it really takes pushing on the right side of the scale a little bit, putting something on the right side of the scale to tip it. And so you gotta choose, like, if you want that to happen, what do you put there? How do you live? And I think often of Esther Perel talking about how when her parents were in the refugee camps for the survivors of the concentration camps, there were two groups of people, she said, and there were those who responded to trauma and grief by staying real low to the ground, and then there were those who got up and got busy living. And I want to be in the camp of people who are busy living. I think that you see the passion and the life force and the possibility and what that results in, and how those people go forth and carry the torch of humanity further. And I think that, you know, if we're going to bother ourselves with purpose and meaning, that helps. That's a good bit of it right there. And so yeah, I want to choose to be on that side, and I think that's how I put something on that side of the scales, because heaven knows I have not always gotten it right. Now, do I hold myself to account for that? Yeah, that's on me. It's who else did that, right? It's on me. However, I'm also careful not to get stuck in a story about that where I'm a bad person and I'm, you know, going to hell, I'm irredeemable. It's like all these things because I did things that were hurtful or harmful or stupid or selfish. You know, I'm pretty sure that just means I'm a human being fumbling around out here doing my best to figure some stuff out, same as everybody else. Because when you get to know everybody else, we've all got these struggles, we've all got these stories, we all get lost, we all make mistakes, we all act out of character. Sorry, it's cold in here. I got the blanket bundled in. It's a big fluffy blanket. Bedding management. Everybody has a story. Everybody has something, and it's part of what unites us. It's part of what bonds us together as human beings, is that we're all gonna have certain struggles, and we're all gonna make mistakes in our own ways. And I think what differentiates a person who's working to settle their accounts from someone who's not aware that maybe that would benefit them or has chosen not to do that is choosing how to behave actively to take up the cause of redemption and to get busy settling the budget, making sure the debts are paid, and that, you know, when you look back, it's that you made those mistakes to learn. You made those mistakes so that you would be driven to contribute. And the story's not just that you're a bad person, that you get caught in that. It's not, it doesn't help, it doesn't allow for forward progress. And it's a little, I don't know, it's a little self-aggrandizing. I'm a bad person, I'm worse than the others, I'm special because I did. You all do stupid bad shit. It's just how it is. to what extent and what way, that's our personal story. That's our own unique path through life. But yeah, we all do that, and we all suffer other people doing that. And to say, well, I'm special because I've suffered more, or I've been like, God's chosen to hate me, or whatever the story is, like, that's not helpful. You get up and you do a thing and you move. It keeps the lifeblood of the world as we know it pumping strong, and the other one is a tourniquet on that libidinous force of humanity. And I see things seem to be kind of getting strangled, and there's like a loss of light and vitality and drive and connection. And I think I think um it's it's our responsibility collectively to see that, and to move in a way that we oppose it. We resist entropy in this. We don't just lie down and let it roll over us, and then complain about being crushed under its the bulldozer of indifference, right? It's karma is actually a responsibility in a sense, and at least in my own weird interpretive model here. And I don't know. I don't know what comes next, if anything, but I know that in this life, uh, there's much more possibility. There's much more peace. There's much more joy, and room for joy, and people can be receptive to that and able to give of that. And I can't imagine that that wouldn't be more favorable. And so, yeah, thinking on karma and how we carry energy and how we balance our books, I guess. Take account and be accountable, and that it's a certain amount of work up front. Some of it is really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, but no pain is permanent. It's just gonna hurt for now that all the those things fester, and there's a poison that seeps into the system from that. And instead of being slowly poisoned over time, we suffer intentionally for a short time and do the work. I say work, it should be almost a joy to do it. Like, yeah, I want to do this because I know you don't get cranky at the end of a good meal when it's time to pay the bill. Can we get the check? That's all it is. It's just saying, can we get the check, while you digest a good meal, and you enjoy that you got a thing, and that you owe a thing, and you settle that, and you go on, and life is peaceful. You can't live on some dine and dash mentality. You're going to be running and stressing and building up bad karma the whole way if that's how you're living life. So it's not because it looks virtuous or it makes you a cool person to be accountable, to be honest, to confront these things and own them, and try to do work towards finding balance and carving out a better path ahead. That it brings peace, and it brings possibility, and it's about how each of us create a little weather system around us. And if we can go out and be that kind of tranquil, warm, sunny day with gentle breezes and carrying the fragrance of flowers, and it's lovely. A whole bunch of those weather systems grouped together, that's what that world becomes. And if we're all in this stormy, tumultuous, gray, sideways rain kind of setting, then, the world's gonna seem very gloomy and turbulent and grim, and you're going to want to shrink from it. And so I think we all act as nodes in a larger network, and we need to be accountable for transmitting the best we can from our location if we want to see the world get better. We're like, oh, the world's all screwed up. We make the world. We're we're the mesh, we're the fabric of the world, and where all those threads intersect, you know, each point, that's where we act to define the weave, I guess. Maybe this is a sloppy metaphor, but there is an idea. Think GPS, right? You've got all the points communicating, representing where they are effectively in sync, that it creates an image of the world. And we're like those little points of data in the GPS network, that we all hold this together. And when we each start unspooling, we create these weather systems around us, and we draw others into it, because our state affects other people's state. And it's very powerful to realize that if you can come in on the level that you want to be at, you can, in most cases, naturally help other people to fall in on that. We naturally synchronize. Like, applause is a great example. Wherever you look, people applauding, it's the same basic thing. There's a synchronization, like when birds are flying and they get into patterns. It's the same basic thing. So it's more than it just feels good for me as an individual living this way. I see a benefit to the world I live in. Where I go, it seems actually like things are not as bad as they're represented, in part because I think the representation is wildly overblown. We're sold the most salacious and dramatic and horrific things because they get clicks, they get eyes on. So yeah, it's going to be amplified, but it's also easy to miss how we influence the world we live in very immediately. Just, I walk in this store, or I'm in this room with these people, or I'm alone with myself and I'm working to be in a good state. How does that ultimately transmit out into the world, such that what I experience of it is a reflection of that? The world we live in is a reflection of how we're living. It really is. And I think that considering karma as an account, and thinking of how energy is transmitted and how we carry things, and how maybe we want to resolve some of that along the way if possible, it's very empowering, and it gives us an opportunity to actually make the world what we want it to be, instead of wishing for world peace like a beauty pageant contestant. Yeah? So, yeah, power to the people. Alright, that's my rant on karma and accountability and some of the rest of it. I just had that running and needed to get it down. So here we go again. So there you have it. As always, I want to thank you for coming along. I appreciate your time, and I hope that this is of some interest or some value, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next round. Alright, thank you. Take care.